gonna swim, bike, and run. In the corner sun, we're gonna swim, bike, and run. In the corner sun, 2021.
Thank you, Poncho Man. Always a pleasure to see you, my man. Everybody, welcome back to Breakfast with Bob, Not Quite Kona Edition. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Challenge North America, Credo Tri, UCAN, Hoka One One, Velo Fix, Norma Tech, Canyon Bikes, and of course our Challenge Athletes Foundation. Right before COVID hit, we sent out 3,921 grants totaling $5.9 million to keep challenged athletes in the game of life through sport. Our next guest, a gentleman I have not had the pleasure to chat with before, Mr. Nick Kastelein. And Nick, first of all, congratulations on Challenge Miami, getting 8th place there. Very, very great, very good race. And really, you were out of the water with your training partner, Jan Frodeno, and he picked up 5 minutes on the bike, and that was pretty much it. But were you happy with that race?
The truth is, Bob, I wasn't so happy. I mean, great swim, and I was really happy with the run, but obviously to lose so much time to such good guys in that race, after the first few laps on the bike, I wasn't in the race. So there's improvements to be had, I think.
So growing up in Australia, what were your sports growing up?
To be honest, I started triathlon young, like 8, 9 years old. We used to have like a little local community Mudgee Triathlon Club. Mudgee's a town of 10,000 people. And my dad used to be the club president. And we used to swim across the pool, maybe 20 meters, ride 2 kilometers, and then do, I think it was a 500-meter run. And I started like this. I did a little bit of football, a little bit of basketball, but triathlon is in the blood.
Was originally, because you were doing ITU stuff going back to like 2005. Was the goal the Olympics early on?
You know, you dug deep, didn't you, Bob? Yeah, I did ITU, and I tried my hand at that. But the truth was, I wasn't a good enough swimmer, and I just wasn't up to speed. And I don't know, I found myself not enjoying the I guess the pathway to get to the Olympics and stuff. And I wasn't really into the shot, to be honest, of going to the Olympics, but you like to think that you are. So that was my short course history.
I think you had like 44 starts and a couple of podiums. So you certainly gave it a shot. You were doing it for a long time. When did you make the move to, okay, you know, I think longer distance with not draft legal might be better for me?
I think there always comes a time, like a crossroads, where you're like, okay, I have to be realistic with myself. Where is it? What am I going to do? Am I making money? You know, I'm starting, I can't remember how old I was, mid-20s. And coincidentally, I moved to Girona, wanted to give it a shot. And in the same year where I was contemplating short course, long course, or even giving up the sport, I met Jan. And the story almost writes itself from there. And, that
was 2014. Was that before he had been to Kona for the first time?
I had been with my dad, actually, for the Hawaii Ironman a couple of times, but I hadn't been before that with Jan or any other reasons. So
now, he raced in 2014 was the first year he came over to race Kona. Did you meet him before that or after that?
That year, actually.
Yeah.
That year was the year I met him. And he actually offered for me to go over with him to do this race, to train with him. Right. And the only thing I could do with him during this at my current fitness level was swim. So he was basically asking me to go over and swim with him. And he was going to, I had a bed to stay in, and I think he was going to pay for the flights. And I turned it down because I wanted to earn €500 and race for my French triathlon team at the time.
Yeah.
And this was it. And then after that, Jan basically gave me an old time trial bike of his, a size large, which I made work, and that was the start of the long course career.
So when I look at results, I look at 2017 is really a memorable year. You get a podium at Barcelona, and I think Jan won at 70.3, right? You got second at Barcelona, and Jan wins the race. And first with your training buddy, right? He wins, you get second. What could be better?
Incredible.
Than that?
It was amazing.
But you break your collarbone during that. You break your collarbone doing the bike, and then still were able to run a half marathon. How the hell did you do that?
I don't know how I did it. There was so many things, like, it, as you said, doing the race with my training partner, it's like considered a local race for us here in Girona. It's 30 minutes down the road. I was on the bike, actually in front of Jan, coming into transition, 500 meters from transition. Of course, the adrenaline's pumping, and there's one guy up the road who we know raced the weekend before, so he has tired legs. I'm like, this is amazing. I hit a corner too hard. I came down. I knew something was wrong with my shoulder. I tried to put my chain back on my bike, and I couldn't. Actually, I had no force with my arm. And so I don't know how I got to transition. I couldn't actually lift my bike onto the rack to rack my bike because my collarbone is broken. Oh no, I know something seriously wrong here. And funnily enough, I was so disoriented that I went into transition, and I turned my socks inside out, because normally that's what I do in training. Your socks are inside out, you put them the right way around, and then you put them on and start running. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was just in pain and adrenaline and everything.
But you get second, you're on the podium with your training buddy, but now it's, you were going to do a different Ironman, I think, but you ended up changing it because you weren't going to be ready. Go to Zurich 10 weeks later and win.
Yeah. I don't know. I knew I had good form and everything, but I don't know. Like, I was just riding this wave of highs, and I was so happy with my result in Barcelona, and I just didn't want to lose it. And Zurich was just, like, I had my dad. My dad flew over from Australia just for this 1 week for the race. I had this incredible comeback story behind me if everything went well, and it just all came together, and crazy year.
So really, when you look at your career, do you look at that 2017 as your best year so far?
It has to be, and like, just full of so many ups and downs with that, and even after that. But just in terms of race highs and that emotional high you get from winning or racing with a mate, or racing with your dad at the finish line or something. Best year yet.
So we've seen top guys train together before. Back in the day, we had Tim DeBoom training with Peter Reed. And then when Peter won the Ironman in '98 and Tim finished 10th, and Tim was like, wait a second, I hurt that guy in a lot of our training sessions, and he's winning and I'm in 10th. What the hell? Sometimes it's hard because you sort of push each other, but at the same time, Jan's winning and you're not. Is that hard for you?
It's not so much. You would think it would be a lot different than what it is, but for anyone who has sat down with Jan or knows Jan, knows the type of guy he is, and the relationship we have, and the way we do things is always together and benefiting each other. And that's always been it, in each other's best interests. And it's always hard to, like, the level at which I'm training at is at Jan's level. So if you ask me if I'm happy with Challenge Miami, I'm not, because the guy beat me by 6 minutes or more. But it's great. It's great in the same time. So
talk a little bit about just the type of training you guys are doing on a regular basis there in Girona, because obviously, when you first met Jan, he took third in Kona in 2014, and then he goes on becomes the best in the world, right? He wins in 2015, 16,
Mm-hmm.
then comes back and breaks the course record in 19. Could you see that coming from the training sessions you guys were doing together?
That's a tricky one because Jan trains on a different level, and I see it, and I go to the sessions, and he does kick my ass most of the time.
Yeah.
And but the guy just has a different gear when it comes to racing. You know, he has a different mentality, and some sessions you see it, you're like, okay, this guy, he's going well. And then other times he tapers 3 days from a race and you think he's in the biggest fatigue hole of his life, and then he comes out and absolutely crushes it. And you know, rabbit out of the hat type stuff.
So before Challenge Miami, you were coming back from a broken pelvis. I mean, that's a tough injury when you're in your early 20s. When you're in your early 30s, that's even harder. Going through that and coming back from that, obviously you wanted to do better at Miami, but the fact that you're coming off a broken pelvis, does that make you go, okay, just the fact, I know I'm there. I know what I can do on the bike to get better, but at least you're past that, the broken pelvis stage.
Yeah, like obviously the broken pelvis means you're in bed for a few weeks at a time, and then you basically start from scratch.
Right.
But like the truth is, I like this. I like starting from scratch. I like starting from the beginning, especially if there's weaknesses to work on. And basically I had to recreate you know, how I move, like my movements and how I ran and everything. And so I took it as an opportunity. And of course, maybe the strength still isn't there, but it's a good challenge. It's a healthy challenge, I think. So that's the way I see it anyway.
When you went to Challenge Miami, obviously these are new style races, the Daytona and now Miami, and these are probably a little back to your roots, right? A little bit of the ITU, fast, furious, couple minute loops. You know, you have to be able to bike. You have to handle a bike. You have to be able to accelerate. Criterium type of format a little bit. Did you like it?
Hated it. Everything that you just said, I disliked about it. I thought it would work to my advantage a little bit, a couple of corners and my position on the bike. I was training well in position and everything. And it just comes back to, like, you know, racing to your strengths. The races that I've done well have always been on bumpy or hilly courses. I've done 70.3 Dubai. I've done, you know, Ironman Barcelona was my last race in 2019. Flat as a pancake. They're all flat as a pancake. And I suffer. A guy with my power to weight, you know, needs to really choose the courses. And I was shocked at Challenge Miami, but I thought I would go better. Right. But the results are there. So
it's funny because you look back and go, well, there's a reason I left ITU.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's part of it. And you know how it is these days. You have to take every opportunity. Challenge Miami might be the only race that we do this year. And so you just take advantage of it. And I think everyone at the race enjoyed it. They enjoyed the process and the hype, and, you know, hypothetically who's got form and who's doing this. And it's great. It's healthy. And yeah, and I just saw everyone enjoying it and smiling.
So if there is racing this year, are you already qualified for Kona? Do you have to do a qualifying race? What does the season hold for you?
That's a tricky one for me, I think. Yeah, if there is qualifying races, I'll have to qualify. I had a bit of string of bad luck with injuries and all of this, so I'm unqualified. And yeah, we'll have to, you know, play it by ear each race.
So when you're a training partner, you're about as close to that athlete as anybody is. When, you know, Jan wins Ironman World Championships 2 years in a row, and everybody feels that, okay, well, he's going to win in 17. It's pretty much, I think at that point he had become a vegan or vegetarian. I forgot what but we saw him at the pre-race at our pre-race chat, and my wife was the one that says he's too skinny. He's gonna have a problem today. And then he had back issues, and the following year, you know, you saw what he did at South Africa, the 106 half marathon off of probably one of the greatest, you know, between him and Javi and Alistair. That was one of the classic races of all time. You're sort of the confident guy, right? You're the guy who, when things are down for him, I'm assuming he's sort of confiding. How tough was that period for Jan? Because the clock is ticking. It's not like he's 25 years old. To know if he's going to get back to where he wants to get back to.
Yeah, like I keep telling him the clock is ticking, but he keeps aging well, and I don't know his secrets. I try to find his aging secrets. He's almost 40. Yeah. So I don't know if he feels like the clock is ticking at all. But yeah, like you have to remember that with the things that happened with, you know, the 2017 race and missing 2018 with the was it a fractured sacrum? But he's been through a lot more injuries in his ITU years as well. So he also deals very well with injuries. He has Albert, his physio, who travels with him everywhere, and yeah, the guy bounces back really well, and he knows how to deal with these things. And you know, when he's out with injury or he can't train for some reason, he's a businessman, and he takes advantage of doing different things, and he's nonstop. So he copes in his own ways, and I'm sure he would have wanted to be there in 2017, 2018, and you know, have a win next to his name. But this is the best part of the sport, isn't it? It's unpredictable.
So do you look at yourself as more of a 70.3 guy, a full distance? What do you think is your ultimate strength?
Give me an Ironman distance race that has a lot of bumps in it. I think a lot of bumps, a lot of mountains. You mean like a
curvy type of bike ride, or what?
A couple of mountains would be nice. If I could design my own course, a couple of mountains, a nice rough swim, and something like that. The longer, the better, I think, for me these days.
So when you look back at this, like you're doing those ITU races back in 2005, and we're talking, what, 16 years? Yeah, 16 years later, right? You're still When you look back at your career, are you happy with how it's gone? What's left for you to accomplish?
Oh, the ITU stuff, of course, there was like, you just realize how far you were away from what you wanted to achieve. So that stuff it will always be in the back of my mind. But the great thing about 70.3 Ironman racing is that there's so much that you can discover about yourself and the style of racing, and I don't think you ever stop learning. And my expectations are high. Like I want to do good things in the sport, and I feel like I can when the stars align. And yeah, I feel like I've got a few more years left. I'm 33. Yep. And if Jan's still doing what he's doing at 39 or whatever, then there's hope for the rest of us, isn't there?
Absolutely. So back, you took at the World Championship 70.3 in Mooloolaba, right, in Australia. You got sixth there. Doing that on home soil, that had to be pretty cool.
It was really cool. I had all my family and a couple of relatives fly up for that race. But the truth was, we were back here in Girona that year. We done Challenge Roth, and Jan was preparing for Hawaii that year. And I was like, I really wanted to qualify for the World Championships in Australia, but we're in Spain, but we're also preparing for Kona. I was like, okay, I'll go at the last minute. I flew on Wednesday, I think it was, before the race, and a couple of days before the race, had a great race, got sixth, like over the moon, stoked, home crowd and everything. Flew back, and then I think on the Monday we were back into Ironman training for Kona.
Not much celebration time.
No, it wasn't, and I like it like this. I like, a little bit of the pressure and back to business.
So you've gone to the start line in Kona before. Does that course suit you? What do you think?
Based off my experiences, Bob, I would say no. But I'm a big sweater. But I also know a few other guys like Terenzo. Terenzo's been in Girona with us training, and I've never known a guy to sweat more than Terenzo.
Yeah.
So and he's had some good results. So if he can do it, then there's hope for the rest of us. And yeah, I would like to do the race when you're 100% fit, 100% positive, and see how it goes.
So you mentioned Challenge Roth. That happens to be one of my favorite races of all time. Does that race suit you?
It was my debut long course race, and I absolutely loved it. I made a rookie mistake in the swim, which cost me a minute, and Jan was out up the road, and he was chasing the world record that year. But I ended up riding for my first Ironman distance. I rode with Niels Fromhold and Tyler Butterfield, and I was just like, this is amazing. Where and these roads, the roads in Roth are just so fast, and it helps because the 12-meter draft rule. If you're a first year long course guy, you know, when you're traveling at 50 plus kilometers an hour, sitting 10 meters behind someone, you get an advantage. So it was great. It was great, and something like that, I think, is my type of course. I would love to go back. It was great. It was like the best experience you could have for a first Ironman, for any Ironman.
I mean, you never see crowds like that.
No, you know how it is. It's you can't replicate it.
It's very cool.
Germans know how to party too.
Yeah. So at this point, you don't know what races you'll be able to do for the rest of this for 2021.
Not so much, but we're talking there might be a possible race in 30 days time, 32 days time, close to home, which will be good. And then it's like everyone, you just have to see what pops up and take it with two hands, you know.
Are you one of those guys who loves the training, or is it hard to be motivated when there's no racing?
Oh, I like the racing. If it was up to me, I would race a lot more than what I do. But at the same time, you have to find the compromise between, you know, high performance and racing for fun.
Yeah. And,
you know, you see, I mean, we keep talking about Jan, but the guy sets an example for everyone. You know, if he's one of the very few athletes that races 2 or 3 times a year, but he makes it count.
Right.
You know, and it's like, well, does this work for everyone, or does an athlete race better when they race a lot? You know, and the problem is when Jan does something, if he goes vegetarian, then everyone's going to go vegetarian because it works for him, and then he'll have all these vegetarian followers because it's the new thing. So can't argue with it.
I love it. Nick, thanks so much for taking time, man. It was a pleasure to get to spend a little time with you.
Thank you, Bob, and I appreciate it. And hopefully we can reunite in Kona this year or the next or whenever.
I would love to see you in Kona, and we'll have the real Poncho Man there.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Nick Kastelein has been our guest, everybody. Again, Breakfast with Bob, not quite Kona edition. Hold on, everybody. We will be right back.